Welcome to the Refuse Ordinary podcast. I'm your host, Tamara, and I'm so glad you've decided to join us on this journey of discovering who God is and who we are in Him. We are so excited to share with you today another class from our full-time School of Transformation.
Yes, so we're going to talk about control. Fun times. Control is something that is, it's something that we tend to go to starting at young ages, right? So if you even watch children for a little while, it's amazing how much they fight for control over their things, over their space, over what they want or don't want to do, right? They're trying to figure out where they fit, what they can do, how they can do it. And control then gets brought up, and there's a healthy version of control and an unhealthy version of control. Now, most of us, if we've experienced any kind of trauma in our life, right, things that are devastatingly hard or things that happen to you that should never have happened to you, damage that has been done to you as children, you know a different kind of control, and most likely that type of control is going to be the majority of what you walk in, with some elements of healthy control. But the majority of what we walk in is unhealthy control, because we have felt that either things have been so out of control that the only way to feel stable in our life is that we've had to take control. We've had to do something to make sure that our life was okay, that we were okay. Even if it was fairy tale, even if it was made up stuff in your head, even if that's the place you went as a child and you lived in another world of make-believe. It's control. Right? Because your world is so out of control. Who you are in the care of, the people you are left with, the situation you are dealt with, the people that have hurt you, have created an unstable feeling that you have to find stability. And when you don't know Jesus, you then find it any way you can. And it's a thing of, I have to be okay, and it's built into us, right? It's part of our fight, flight, and freeze responses, right? When we get in that, felt like we're backed into a corner, we have to do something. We have to take control, right? And control, I like the little bubble at the top. It says, an attempt to stop others from seeing who we believe that we are. So most of the time we've been in situations where people have started to believe things about us, and we've had to, or they've done things to us that created a belief system in us that we have to continue to prove ourselves. We have to continue to make sure that people don't actually see the broken little girl or little boy that you still feel you are. Right? Yeah. I remember thinking in my, childhood and in my teenage years and even in my 20s, like, when I grow up, when I get to a certain age, when I have certain things, when I grow up, I will be this, or I will feel like a grown-up. I will feel mature. When I reach this age, I will feel grown up. Right? But the problem is that we often stay as the hurt little girls and little boys, and we don't feel like grown-ups in our body. We feel like we're imposters a little bit, like we're pretending. We're trying to put on a good show because I have 2 children, because I have 5 children, because I have 3 children, because I have 2 children, because I have whatever. It's like we're trying to put on something to make us believe we're grown up. When I own a house, or when I have 2 cars, or when I own a car, I'll feel like a grown up then. But oftentimes what it is that is our search to be in control of something that will make us feel the way we think we should feel, and not actually how we feel, because we've been damaged, because we've been hurt, because we are a little bit stuck in that hurt place as a child, having to find our own sense of stability. And so we then look at the world, and that's what the world does. So then we kind of think, oh, we're okay. We're okay if we're in control. Control is a good thing. It means that I am the author, I am the writer of my own life. Mm-hmm. I get to dictate what path I'm on. Right? And then we meet Jesus. And he turns it all upside down. Right? Because it's not about that anymore. But how do you let go of control when it's the deep thing you feel on the inside that if I actually let go of this, who will I be? What will happen to me? Right? Because things have happened to you, you then can make vows, judgments, decisions. I will never let that happen again. So then you have to be in control to make sure it doesn't happen. All right? I will never feel that way again. So you have to take control to make sure you will never feel that way again. I will never be embarrassed like that again. I will never be humiliated like that again. I will never be put down like that again. I will never be abused like that again. But then you end up finding yourself in cycles of abuse. Right? Verbal, physical, mental, emotional, sexual, where it just keeps looping itself and you can't find the control. So then you have to go to something different, which is then oftentimes where we have drugs come in, alcohol come in. If I can't make it stop, then I can make it numb. Right? Do you see how it builds? It's just such a twisted and deceptive enemy that we have. But it's a killer of our relationship with Jesus. Because it says that it's no longer I that lives, but Christ that lives in me, which means I'm not in control anymore. But how do we reconcile that? How do we meet those things together? How do we believe that word and yet still feel like taking care of my bills is my responsibility and I need to be in control? There's a fine line. Because he has given you the ability to meet your bills, to pay them. But do you go to him first? Or do you go with your ability first? If you depend on your ability first, you're in control. If you depend on him to use your ability, he's in control. See how it's very, very slight. It's very small change, but it will make a whole lot of difference in your life. Right? I have to make sure these bills are paid. He's given me the ability to work and a mind to do it. I have to make sure they're done. Well, yes and no. He has given you the ability, absolutely. He has given you the body and the hands and the brain to do it. But do you trust him first to use that ability, those brains, your hands, your feet, your smarts? Do you depend on him first to use those things to pay your bills? To use those things to make a difference, to use those things to be influential, to get to even interact with people, right? And so it's like these little tiny differences, but the hard part is the world is so loud with its ideas, with what it's trained us to believe from small children. If you think it, you can do it. If you believe hard enough, you can do anything you want. Well, that puts all of the control on you. And then we try to figure out, well, why can't I let you in, God? Why aren't you in my life, God? Right? And I think that I think that we can swing from one side to the other, right? So we need to be here, and we can swing way over here and say, I need to be in control, and God, I'll just have you come along and bless it, but I'll make sure that I am in power, that I am climbing up the ladder. I am advancing in my career. I'm advancing in my life. I'm advancing in my motherhood. I'm advancing in my job, in my schooling. And I'll just have you bless my finances and bless my comfort and bless my life. But then we sometimes will swing over here where we find out, oh wait, he has to be in control. So, well, then I don't have to do anything. I'll just sit back. Jesus will do it all. Right. I'm a Christian now. Jesus does it. Right? But we got to find that middle. We got to find the part where, yes, he has given you the ability to do greatness. That's what he's called you to, greatness. Great things. Great things for him, great things for your family, great things for your community, great things for your church. But to do it through him first. To rely on him first, to give him control of what that looks like, when that looks like, how that looks like. Which is difficult. It's hard. It's super hard. Because when we give him control, it says in the book, it says, in an effort to not be exposed, right? We introduce control. We separate, we withdraw from, and we abandon those around us. In this ability to advance ourselves, in this ability to want to show people who we think, we need to show them who we are, right? They can't see us truly for the broken people we are. It's like if, who here has had their brokenness exposed to others? Right? Laid bare. All to see. And so what we often do is we try to look for control. I feel exposed right now, so how do I control something? I can control my eating. I can control my kids. I can control what I do on the weekends and nobody can tell me. What I do at nighttime and nobody can tell me. Right? We look for these little windows when we feel exposed in our emotions, when we feel like people know things that we never wanted them to know, when we feel like we're out of control. We look for ways to control. And we look for them in getting in arguments and fights and pushing people away. We look for them in emotional eating. We look for them in unhealthy comfort. Right? We look for them in ways that aren't designed by him. But we do that because we feel exposed. We feel bare. We feel vulnerable. And so we have to ask ourselves, what do you believe about yourself? And have you done something shameful? Or do you believe that you are something shameful? Has life taught you that you are something shameful? Or has life taught you that you've just done shameful things? And there's a difference. Identity, hence the name of the month, Identity Month, right? It becomes then your identity, who you are. If you are shameful, and that's your identity, then you will try very, very hard to make sure that your life is in control. And they have to be in control. And they're losing control, which means that control is the guard of their life. It's the stronghold. It's what we call a guardian lie. It's the thing that stands in the way to make sure that you are safe.
What is the guardian lie?
Control.
Oh, okay.
I need to be in control. Because if I'm not in control, then people will see me for who I think I am, and who I think I am is shameful. Who I think I am is bad. Who I think I am is evil. Who I think I am and what people have told me I am, right, is unworthy. Not worth living. Right? It just keeps spiraling down. So to be able to protect that true lie at the bottom of our identity and who we think we are, we do things to be in control. Right? We do things to make sure that nobody else sees it. We do things to make sure that the only thing they see is what we want them to see. Happy, friendly, lovely, or angry, stay out of my way, don't talk to me. Right? They're both forms of control, and they're both to hide. Reasons we control: to avoid pain, to gain power. If you have felt like you have been powerless in your life, then the only way that you could feel like you were in control was to take power over somebody or something. That's where bullies come from. Most bullies feel like they have to bully somebody that's younger than them or smaller than them, or pick on somebody that's weaker than them, because that's how they feel at home. Or that's how they feel with their older siblings. Or that's how they feel with their aunts and uncles, their cousins. They have been made to feel that way, so they have to gain power somehow. And so they bully. And the other reason is to avoid pain. Right? We avoid pain by pretending that we're powerful. And so we have to do things to make sure that people believe that we're powerful. So they don't see the pain that's deep. It's the same with a smile and joy. I mean, you can look at somebody's life and think, man, they've just got so much joy. And you know what? They could. But without Jesus, it's most likely a mask. Because they have to make sure that nobody sees the absolute pain on the inside. So they cover up with a smile. Because if they're smiling, nobody will ask them about the pain. Nobody will see through it because they're smiling. Because how could somebody with that much joy have anything wrong with them? And so you just smile in front of people because you want them to see that you are fine. When every moment that you're alone, the only thing you want to do is not be there. Right? But you have to be in control because nobody can see that deep, dark pain. And so everything has to be fine. It's really funny to me sometimes when people go through identity month, love month. You ask them how are you doing? How's it going? How are you? Oh, I'm great. I am fine. This is great. And it's not that it's not great, because there are elements of this being great. Because the Lord's real and He's healing.
Yeah, it's true.
Right? But if that's the automatic response every time, then we've got to uncover some things. Because that's a control mechanism that we often put in place instead of actually somebody seeing the pain of our heart and being able to either hurt you again, or there is a potential to heal. But that means that you'd have to uncover it. And that might be too painful. Right? So you have to wear that mask. It can't be that. Does that make sense? And again, you can be okay in Identity Month. Inner healings can be great, because they are. Right? As long as the part of your heart that is vulnerable and hurt can be shown to other people, to Jesus, so that you can be loved, so that you can have people pour into you, so that you can have people give you encouragement, hear Jesus for you, right? Get freedom, be praying for you.
Yeah.
That's the balance of vulnerability. Now, you also have the grumpy gills, right? The people that walk around and you don't even want to talk to them because they have such a scowl on their face, and you just think the only time I'm going to talk to them is if I need something desperately, and then you're expecting them to bark at you, and most likely they will. Right? It's just like we have people. It's like, I don't have time for you because I don't want to hear your bark. I don't want to hear your snap. I've already dealt with enough snap today. I don't want to deal with yours too. I don't want to deal with your attitude and your grumpiness and your anger and your frustration. But that's a mask. Mm-hmm. Right? It might be more true of their emotions, but it's still a protection. Mm-hmm. It's still control. Mm-hmm. They're making sure that you stay away so that you don't ask any questions, so that you can't really, truly uncover the pain of their heart. Right? So the next part says the ways we control. Direct control, out in the open. Boss says do this, then do that, then do this, then do that. Overt control. It's like direct control, but not as obvious. The motives are unclear, and you're steering a conversation to suit yourself. So direct control isn't bad. Direct control actually is a leader taking the leadership position and giving direction. Overt control is passive aggressive, and its motives are unclear, and it's most likely it's going to steer your conversation or your tasks to suit yourself. It's selfish, self-based. Hidden control looks like something else, and it's oftentimes masked, like I said, by joy or by anger. Hidden control can be masked by attention, loving the attention of being sick. It's like we've all probably met people in our life that they just are sick all the time, and they love their sickness, and they talk about their sickness, and it's always about their sickness, right? And that is hidden control. They are hiding who they are and the deep pain of their life through sickness, and they're getting the thing that they've lacked in their life from the people, except for it just usually repels them. It usually pushes them away. Nobody wants to be near people that talk about how sick they are all the time and needing your constant sympathy, right? Because that is draining, and it feels annoying. It feels wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it, right? But it's at the same time, it's how people use hidden control. It looks like one thing on the outside, but really what's going on the inside is deeper. Right? It's allowing the pain to come out. And so Jesus wants to heal that in people. But you have to let him too. Right? You have to let him heal you when it comes to control. There has to be a willingness. Otherwise, you will control things your whole life.
Is there other examples of that?
Of the hidden?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's the same with anger or joy. Right? It's just, it looks like something else than what it truly is. Indirect control is often hidden as well, and it's usually through controlling the emotions. These are usually very manipulative people. They like to manipulate you and your emotions, withdrawing approval and being critical, judging people, making you look at people a certain way so that they feel better about themselves and you'll feel better about yourself. So like, have you ever met people in the crowd that just talk and judge other people that walk by them, or like, oh my gosh, she's just gained so much weight, or she looks too skinny, or whatever, you name it, right? It's those kinds of things that you're manipulating people to believe something about somebody, to withdraw your approval of them so that you'll approve more of the person that's talking. And you'll say things like, oh gosh, yeah, she does look a little thin. Is she okay? Right? And it really is to mask the pain inside of them by deflecting and looking at all the problems in other people. And it can get really ugly really quickly. They're usually the passive-aggressive type, so it'll look like when you try to stop it, somehow it'll be your fault. When you try to stop the gossip, when you try to stop the control, when you try to stop the emotions behind it, when you try to stop that yucky feeling you have, it'll most likely become your fault. Somehow. It'll be yours. You'll be blamed. All right, and that's the manipulation part that takes over with control. So 2 types, there's on the page 21, you can flip over. It says 2 types of control, healthy and unhealthy. So healthy control looks like control by an authority figure, like policemen, right? They were put in place for a reason, and that's for protection. That's for safety. Now, there can be an abuse of that, but the original intention is supposed to be to protect, to keep safe, right? Speed limits. That's a control, right, of an inanimate object that controls you, right? So not all control is terrible. There are certain things that God puts in place with control that are actually healthy and good, right? We like to call them boundaries, right? But then even that word has become so twisted in the world, because then it becomes, well, you can't tell me what to do. You can't tell me how to do it, right? But that is another way of control. Nobody can tell me how to be. Nobody can tell me how this is going to look. Nobody can tell me that this is the only way, right? So then it looks like a certain way. Control then takes on and looks a certain way. Then it becomes unhealthy. But not all control is unhealthy. You then have control that is supposed to be there, like control by an authority figure. If you have a fireman coming to rescue out of a house, they're an authority figure on how fires work. You're going to want to listen to them. You're going to want them to be in control, right? Because they're going to save your life. You're drowning in a pool. The authority figure is the lifeguard. You're going to want them to be in control in that moment, because they're going to save your life. Does that make sense? You see how sometimes we can take control, throw it in a bucket, and say it's all bad. Control is all bad. People that try to control, terrible. Well, no. Not all control is terrible. By people. It's supposed to be good. Right? You're in a bank robbery. Policemen are outside. You want the authority figures to be in control. Because you are not. Right? So you want them to know what they're doing so that you're safe. So that you become safe, that you're saved. Healthy control leads to willing submission and cooperation. A good example is in your job. We all have bosses. We've all probably worked under a boss. Whether they were a good boss or a terrible boss, they're still a boss. right? They're still giving you direction on the way the company is going to go, right? A coach is an authority figure. They have healthy control. They're going to tell you who's coming on and off the court. They're going to tell you which way to go, what plays to run. They're going to help you win the game. They're in control. But have you ever seen the players at a basketball game that don't do what the coach is saying to do, and they decide on their own, and they lose the game because they decided they knew better than the coach sitting there seeing things that the players don't see, right? It's like there are really healthy authority figures in our life that have control and should have control. Parents have this responsibility. We have responsibility to control our children in a healthy way. And I think in America, we throw that out and we say, control is bad. We can't control our children. It will ruin them. Then you have other cultures that have extreme control, and it's insane, and it is a little bit, it's like that swing, right? You have it over here in America where nobody can tell your kid anything, not even you. Then you have it over here in like even parts of Asia where it's like the kids can't breathe without permission. Right? You can't take a breath unless I tell you to. So like we have to find this balance in the middle of what God intended. He intended us to instruct our children. Right? So when we have kids, this is a great example of how maybe we haven't been taught and how maybe we haven't always taught our children, and maybe we have. This was told to me before I had kids, and so I've tried to really keep this as something that I remember when I'm teaching my children. My children look for boundary lines. They look for the edge of where right and wrong is because they're learning and they want to know. And if you don't tell them, you're not being the responsible, loving parent that you think you are. By not telling them that's right and that's wrong and you can't cross it, and if you do, there will be a consequence, you are not setting them up for any kind of success for the future. Because in life, we know as adults, there is right and wrong. And if you do wrong, there is a consequence. So children need to learn this, and the only way they're going to learn it is when they do things to their siblings that are right or wrong. How they talk to their parents, how they treat people at school. Right? It's like they're trying to find out. They don't know, and they have to be taught. It was a very big, like, constant reminder, and it still is to me, of like, the word no is actually not something that they know about. You have to teach a child the word no. You have to teach them what it means. You say no, and they don't listen to you immediately. It's because they don't actually understand that word yet. They have to know what that word means. So they go to touch a light socket, and you say no. Sometimes they'll react because your voice went up, no. Right? But they don't know why. And they don't know what that word means. So they go to try to touch it again because, well, they got a reaction out of you first. And number two, they don't understand it quite yet. Right? So then we would go over and we would take their hand. No. No touch. No touch. We teach them what that word no means and why. That's owie. That hurts. Right? And if they continue to all do it, then there's going to have to be like that's a no. That's owie. You don't touch that. Right? They need to know that you're serious, that there's boundaries, there's guidelines. They have to learn the word no. But if you just decided, well, they'll learn somehow, go ahead, touch it. They'll figure out the word no eventually. I don't want to be that parent. Right? That's silly. And we would all think that's silly. Except for we do that with this all the time. We can't control our kids. No, we can control our kids. And our kids will be controlled in a loving and healthy way. And when we go outside of those boundaries of loving and healthy and we become angry and sin, we become irate and raged, because we have those moments too, because they know how to push our buttons. They know how to say things that rises the temperature to get a reaction. Right? It's like we have to go back and realize like I was wrong in that way. I wasn't wrong to teach you. I was wrong in my reaction to you. Right? You can't just apologize. I'm sorry for telling you no. No, I'm not sorry for telling you no. I'm sorry that mommy got angry when I told you no. Right? Because I'm teaching them that they need to be able to be instructed by somebody in authority in their life. Because we all have to do this with Jesus. And the reason we have a hard time is because we don't know what that looks like, because it's been abused in our life. So then we've taken all of it and we've thrown it out and we decided to control ourselves. We can't have people control us because we need to take control of ourselves, because control has hurt us. Control has been a bad thing in our life. And we need him to change that, because it's not all bad. It's good, and it's needed, and it's necessary. Unhealthy control. It's unauthorized control, imposing of will, and abuse. I think we can probably think of lots of situations where all of that has happened in our life. Right? Where we have had people that have been unauthorized in our life, somebody that wasn't our parent, somehow impose themselves on us, or in a disciplined way, in a physical way, in an emotional way, in a sexual way, whatever. Right? In those moments is where you have found a way that you had to then control. Results of control. They look like two different things. They can look like both of those things in the same breath. It's rebellion and rejection. So when you feel control and you feel the unhealthy part of control, you feel like somebody has taken your ability to choose away that was not good, right? Has abused you in some way. There is this, we either go to rebellion or we go to rejection. So, the people that walk into the room and they just walk in and they're rejected, and you just know it, and you know that they're looking for something from you, and you just can't do anything but want to reject them. It's like you don't want to be near them, you don't want to be around them, you just want to reject them because something about them just irritates you, and you just can't figure out why, and so the only thing you want to do is push them away. That's because they're operating out of control in rejection. It's spiritual. It has nothing to do with them, and I've watched people get free. I've watched people literally come in every single day and sit in our class, and the only thing that Johnny and I want to do is reject them. It's like, why do I have this strong urge to just want to reject everything you say and do? And I have to fight it because I don't want to reject them. That's not God's heart. That's not my position I'm in. But they just wear it. It's like a coat they put on, and they just come in, and you're just like, woo. It's like, okay, Jesus, please help me not reject them. I don't want to reject them. I don't want to reject them. Right? I want to have your eyes to see. Let me see how you see them. Let me see them above their annoyingness, above their neediness, above their, combativeness. Right? And I've watched people get free of that because they realized that it was a control mechanism. It was birthed out of a control mechanism that they put in place. Right? And so rejection, we'll go to rejection first. Rejection looks like feeling separated and put down, feeling inadequate, low self-esteem, the victim mentality, isolating yourself, being very sensitive to control, and being unteachable and opinionated. And rebellion looks like venting of emotions. You're always having extreme bursts of emotion. They could be sad, they could be angry, they could just be indifferent. Like you know what I mean? Like there's the polar swings of emotions and making sure that everybody knows about them. Doing things to hurt authorities to prove a point. So constantly putting people down that are in authority over you, sabotaging things that your boss has said for you to do to make them look terrible, to prove a point. Stuffing your emotions, not letting anybody see emotion is being in rebellion. Stubbornness at heart. And we're talking like stubborn, right? I don't want to do that. I don't want to say that. I'm not going to repeat after you. Okay. Right? There's that stubborn thing, and it's like, I don't really want to repeat after me, so I'll just make up my own words. Okay. Those are all indicators. Oh, you see it in class, you see it in inner healing, see it at church.
Yeah.
You'll stand up and do the everybody repeat after me prayer. Nobody does it. You watch people just stand there. That's stubbornness. That's control. Nobody will tell me what to do. It's crazy how it's all built in. We don't even recognize it sometimes. We just do it because we've been doing that for so long in our life. It's just become normal and natural that we don't even see that it's not supposed to be that way. Right? Leading a double life. We all know people that have done that. That's a result of control. And causing division. Talking about people behind their back. Making sure people see people in a certain light. Making sure that you talk bad about people so nobody will like them, or nobody will choose them, or nobody will agree with them. Having your offense take over and influence other people so that you're agreed with. Right? It's your way of controlling. It's your way of you being in control, because you can't have anybody else be in control. So, all of that to say, Jesus wants to change some things in our lives. Jesus wants to heal us. He wants to set us free. He doesn't want us to be bound by control. He doesn't want us to have rebellion. He doesn't want us to have rejection. He doesn't want us to have the things that we struggle with, right? Our fantasy worlds or our, but it's like, I'm not getting something I need, so I have to make sure I get it in whatever way that looks, right? And so then it creates these unhealthy areas of control, so that when we find Jesus and he says to us, you're not in control anymore. It's not about you. You don't get to make choices anymore. It's about him. And we all think, I hate that. What do you mean? Something about that just makes me angry. Why? Right? It's like Steve saying, I'm owed nothing. I deserve nothing. I owe him everything. And I get to work for him. That makes people so mad. More mad than I've ever seen people in that statement. What do you mean I deserve nothing? I deserve nothing? That's what you're saying about me? right? Because deep down, that's what they've believed their whole life, that they have deserved nothing. And so now you're confirming the fact that that's true. When they fought so hard to push that pain down, that all the years they felt like that, they locked it away and they covered it up with control. And now you're telling me I deserve nothing? Don't you see what I've worked for? I've worked to have things. I've worked to be something, right? I've worked to be this person. I've worked hard. I've put the work in. I've given up my life. That's not enough. Now you're saying I don't deserve it, right? It really hits people's deep core identities because it's truly how they feel about themselves as a small child. It's how people have made them feel their whole life. All right? I'm owed nothing. We walk around like we're owed a bunch as human beings, right? We walk around as human beings like we're owed something, and we experience it daily, all around us. If you want to experience it, you just spend one Friday at the food bank giving out food boxes. They're owed it. And you better give me my food. You stand in line at the welfare office, Social Security, pick one. And you will find that this is the above all heart attitude with people. You owe me. I have served my country. I'm a vet. I'm owed. And Jesus comes along and says, listen, the only thing you're owed is a lifetime in hell. But I'm going to save you from that. And I'm going to give you an eternity in heaven. But it means that you have to let go of your control. And we just feel like that's too hard sometimes. So as long as I have a little bit of control, let me have a little bit. I'll give you most of the control. But I still get to choose what I eat. I still get to choose what I wear. I still get to choose how I look. I still get to choose what I do on the weekends. I still get to choose what I think. But you can have my life, oh God. I'll give it to you. I'm yours. And you truly believe it. And then we teach about control. And he comes knocking. And he says, well, what about that thought? What about that belief? What about that idea? What about that job? What about your attitude? What about your thought process when nobody knows? Right? What about your weekend times? Right? But it's just covering up the deep, deep, deep pain of our hearts, where we have to feel like we have to be in control. So, we're going to recognize that control happens. We're going to ask the Holy Spirit who taught you to control, and we're going to forgive them. We're going to ask for revelations. I think it's probably more than one that we need. I know I do. Of places in our life that could be blind, that we could be blind to control. Because control is a little bit of it's a sneaky one. It comes in under something else a lot of times, and it's the hidden, right? We just think, oh, well, that's not bad. That's good. And then we ask the Holy Spirit, and he shows you actually the whole reason you're doing that is based out of something that's not good, right? It's like generosity is a good thing. But when it's done out of a place of, I will get if I give, and the only reason I'm giving is to get, generosity is no longer generosity. It's no longer pleasing to the Lord. Generosity is, I'm going to give because he's told me to give, and he's asked me to do it, even if he gives me nothing in return. Even if I don't get the laws of generosity given back to me. Right? The biblical laws. We're going to renounce and break agreement with this behavior pattern. We're going to learn legitimate and healthy forms of control. And we're going to give control back to Jesus and ask him to be your teacher and your Lord.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Refuse Ordinary. We hope you were encouraged, inspired, and even challenged to seek more of who God is and who you are in him. If you have any questions about the School of Transformation or would like to apply for our next semester, please go to transformationschool.org or send us an email at info@transformationschool.org. See you next time.